And today we're tackling a really tough one. Homelessness in the U.S.
Yeah, it's something you see, unfortunately, in almost every city. But I think it's also profoundly misunderstood, often boiled down to individual choices or failures.
Exactly. And the data, the sources we looked at, they just tell a very different story. So that's our mission today.
Right. We want to move past those surface-level takes.
We need to look at really three things. First, who actually makes up the unhoused population? Because it's not monolithic.
Okay.
Second, the psychological cost. It's devastating and often completely unseen.
The hidden injuries.
Precisely. And third, what actually works? What are the specific structural fixes that we know are effective based on, decades of evidence?
And just to set the stage, the scale we're talking about here in the U.S., it's kind of mind-boggling.
It really is. The numbers hover around 3.5 million people experiencing homelessness each year.
3.5 million.
Yeah, that's about 1% of the entire U.S. population annually.
Wow, 1%. When you put it like that, it really screams systemic issue, not just, isolated incidents.
Absolutely. It points to this incredible economic fragility that's just baked into the system for so many people.
Think about that 1%. It means losing everything because of something that should be survivable. Like your car breaks down, or you get hit with a big medical bill or a layoff.
Right. These are often people who are working, sometimes multiple jobs, but they just don't have that buffer. They're right on the edge.
It brings up that fundamental question the sources touch on, doesn't it? In our society, are you only your job? What happens when that's gone?
And how much responsibility does the system bear for that lack of safety?
Yeah, and it seems like this isn't lost on younger generations either.
No, the data suggests Gen Z is acutely aware of this. They've seen the dot-com bust, the 2008 recession, COVID layoffs.
They grew up with it.
Exactly. They watched people lose everything, careers, homes, through no fault of their own. So there's this earned skepticism, this view that maybe the traditional job path isn't safe.
Which might explain some of the interest in entrepreneurship we see, that search for control.
The sources definitely suggest a link there, yeah. It's partly driven by that fear, that instability they've witnessed, which is tied directly back to the housing crisis.
Okay, so let's dive into that first area you mentioned, breaking down who we're actually talking about. Section 1, the different populations. Because you can't have one solution for everyone.
No, absolutely not. Nuance is everything here. Broadly, we can think about three main groups. The largest one, by far, is transitional or episodic homelessness.
Okay, transitional. So these are mostly families, maybe youth, individuals, people having a relatively short spell of being unhoused.
Exactly. Typically just a few months. And the cause is usually pretty clear-cut. One major life crisis.
Like we mentioned, job loss, a medical emergency, fleeing domestic violence.
Right. These are fundamentally stable people who just hit a financial cliff. What they need is, essentially, a temporary boost. A light-touch financial bridge to get them back on their feet quickly.
Before that temporary crisis spirals into something worse.
Precisely. Because if they don't get that help, they risk falling into the next category.
Which is?
The chronic homeless. Now, this is the group that's often most visible, the stereotype many people hold. They make up about 30% of the official point-in-time counts.
And the definition here is specific, right? It's about duration and condition.
Yes. Homeless for 12 months straight, or having multiple episodes, say 4 or more in 3 years, and having a disabling condition.
A disabling condition. So this isn't just about needing a rent voucher.
No, not at all. This is fundamentally a complex care health issue. We see very high rates of severe mental illness, SMI, substance use disorder, SUD, serious physical disabilities. So their need is totally different. It's intensive, long-term health care coupled with permanent housing stability. You can't just give them a 3-month voucher and expect things to resolve.
Lumping them in with the family whose house burned down just sets everyone up for failure.
Exactly. And then there's the third group, which really highlights the market issues, economic homelessness. And this group is growing fast in a lot of places.
These are folks who are working, right? Maybe even holding down 2 jobs.
Yes, but they're still priced out of the housing market. They're the working poor, living in cars, motels, doubling or tripling up in apartments.
And the sources had some stark numbers on this, like the housing wage.
Yeah, it's pretty shocking. In states like California, what you need to earn per hour just to afford a basic apartment, it could be over $40 an hour in major cities.
$40 an hour? That's significantly more than minimum wage. That prices out service workers, maybe even some professionals like nurses or teachers in certain areas.
Absolutely, yeah. And when people earning well above the minimum wage can't afford rent, you simply cannot call that a personal failing. That is a market failure, plain and simple.
A structural problem needing a structural solution.
Correct, which we'll get to. But understanding these groups first is key.
Definitely. And that leads us right into the next critical piece, the psychological impact, the unseen injury, as you called it.
Yes, because what we often see on the street, the paranoia, the exhaustion, maybe substance use, those are so often symptoms of the trauma, not the root cause of the homelessness itself.
That's a huge distinction.
It is, and the toll starts immediately, the second that financial security disappears. Research shows losing a job can be as emotionally devastating as losing a loved one.
Wow.
Yeah, and for 1 in 5 people, their quality of life stays measurably lower for up to 5 years after being dismissed.
5 years, and that initial wound, especially in the U.S., where work is so tied to identity, it's gotta be huge.
It is. Think about the first question people ask. What do you do? When the answer is nothing or unemployed, it hits right at your self-worth. Shame kicks in. You've lost your structure, your community, maybe your sense of purpose.
It creates this void.
And that void gets filled almost immediately by what psychologists call the scarcity mindset. This is such a critical concept.
Explain that a bit more, scarcity mindset.
Okay, so when you're in constant financial panic, worrying about your next meal, where you'll sleep, it doesn't just stress you out, it literally eats up your cognitive bandwidth.
Like your brain's processing power is maxed out.
Exactly. Your functional IQ actually temporarily drops, not because you're less intelligent, but because all your mental resources are focused entirely on immediate survival.
So navigating complex things like finding help or applying for jobs becomes incredibly difficult.
Almost impossible. You're overwhelmed, not incapable. Now, imagine taking that stress and multiplying it exponentially when you actually lose your housing.
Right, then it's not just financial panic, it's physical survival.
Your brain goes into constant fight or flight mode. Your sympathetic nervous system is just always on.
Constantly flooded with cortisol, the stress hormone.
Right, and the effects are brutal. Severe sleep deprivation, hypervigilance, always scanning for threats, worried about being attacked or your stuff being stolen, intense irritability, paranoia.
And losing the basic dignity of having a door you can lock.
That loss of basic safety, that locked door, is profoundly dehumanizing. It strips away your sense of control.
And this is where that crucial misdiagnosis often happens, isn't it?
Yes, because someone living in that constant state of trauma will likely show signs of depression, anxiety, maybe turn to substances to cope.
And society looks at that and says, that's why they're homeless.
When in fact, those are often perfectly normal human responses to an incredibly traumatic, inhuman situation. The homelessness caused the condition, not the other way around.
It's reinforced by how society then treats them too, right?
Yeah.
There are sociological ideas about this.
Absolutely. Think about Cooley's looking glass self. Our sense of who we are is basically a reflection of how we think others see us.
So if society treats you as invisible or a nuisance or dangerous,
The reflection you see staring back is, I'm worthless, I'm a burden, I'm a failure.
and there's another theory, sociometer theory.
Right, Leary's idea.
Mm-hmm.
It suggests low self-esteem isn't some internal flaw, it's like an internal gauge, a sociometer telling you you've been rejected by the group, cast out of the tribe.
Which, after facing rejection from landlords, employers, maybe even support systems,
You start to internalize it. That's learned helplessness. You come to believe that nothing you do actually matters, so why even try? It's a devastating cycle.
But there's a counterpoint in the sources too, drawing on Viktor Frankl's work from, the most extreme circumstances imaginable.
Yeah, Frankel's insight from concentration camps was that even when everything else is stripped away, you still retain the freedom to choose your attitude, your values, and importantly, your competence, the skills and knowledge you possess.
That's so important. Losing your job or home doesn't erase your skills or your history. Your identity is who you have become, not just your current circumstance.
Right, and that points towards recovery. If the trauma strips away dignity and safety, the first step back must be restoring that foundation.
Which brings us perfectly to Section 3, what actually works. And the evidence seems overwhelmingly clear on the core philosophy, housing first.
Yes, but to really get it, you have to understand the old way, the treatment-first model.
The one that basically failed.
Largely, yes. It demanded people get clean, sober, employed, mentally stable before they could earn housing.
Which sounds almost impossible if you're living on the street in that constant state of crisis we just described.
Exactly. How can you focus on treatment or job searching when all your energy is going into just surviving the next 24 hours? It puts the cart entirely before the horse.
So Housing First flips that script.
Completely, it says, provide the stable, safe home first. Give someone that door with a key, that symbol of dignity and control.
And then offer the support services.
Yes, crucially, voluntary wraparound services. Healthcare, mental health support, job training, whatever they need. But the housing isn't conditional on accepting services immediately. It works because housing provides the stable platform for those services to be effective. Housing is healthcare in this context.
Okay, so let's match this philosophy to the populations we defined. For the chronic homeless, the highest need group.
The clear evidence-based solution is permanent supportive housing, or PSH.
Permanent supportive housing. What does that look like?
It's housing first, combined with intensive on-site case management. Think social workers, nurses, therapists right there in the building, helping residents manage those complex health conditions, the SMI, SED, physical disabilities. They're incredibly strong. Consistently, PSH programs show 85–90% housing retention rates, even for people who've been homeless for years and have very complex needs.
85 to 90%. That's remarkable. But what about the cost? That's always the argument against these programs.
That's the kicker. PSH is actually cheaper for taxpayers in the long run.
Cheaper.
Well, think about the costs of not housing someone experiencing chronic homelessness. The sources cite figures of $40,000 to $60,000 per person per year.
Where does that money go?
Emergency room visits, hospital stays, jail time, police interactions, temporary shelters. It's a constant cycle of expensive reactive crisis care. PSH drastically reduces those costs, often by over 50%.
Because people are stable, they're getting preventative care instead of emergency care.
Exactly. It's more humane, far more effective, and demonstrably saves public money.
So if it works better and costs less, why isn't it everywhere? What's the holdup?
It often boils down to a few things.
Yeah.
Political will, not in my backyard, or any opposition to siting new units, and the upfront capital investment needed to actually build the housing.
Shifting funds from emergency services to proactive housing takes a different kind of planning.
It does. It requires a long-term perspective that can be challenging for municipal budgets focused on the immediate.
Okay, moving to the largest group, the transitional homeless. They don't necessarily need intensive long-term care.
Right. They need that quick bridge back to stability. And the solution here is rapid rehousing, or RRH.
Rapid rehousing. So this isn't a permanent subsidy?
No, it's specifically designed as a short-term intervention. It helps people find housing, covers things like security deposits and first month's rent, and then provides a shallow, usually declining rent subsidy for maybe 3 to 6 months.
Just enough to get them back on their feet after that initial crisis.
Exactly. It's the most efficient way to stop that temporary situation from becoming chronic homelessness. It leverages their existing stability and resources.
Okay, and finally, the economic homelessness group. The ones working but priced out. You said we can't service our way out of this.
Correct. This is fundamentally a structural problem of housing supply and affordability. So the solutions have to be structural too. Prevention and supply.
Let's start with prevention. How do we stop people from falling off the edge in the first place?
Prevention is incredibly cost-effective. Things like one-time emergency grants. A relatively small amount, say $1,500, can often be enough to stop an eviction dead in its tracks.
Preventing all the downstream costs and trauma of becoming homeless.
Absolutely. And another huge one is providing free legal aid to tenants facing eviction. Having legal representation dramatically increases their chances of staying housed. Eviction ruins credit, job prospects. Preventing it is a massive win.
Makes sense, but prevention alone doesn't fix the underlying shortage. We need more affordable housing supply.
Exactly. And this is where we get into solutions like community land trusts, or CLTs.
CLTs, I've heard of these, but how do they actually work?
Okay, the basic mechanism is pretty cool. A nonprofit organization buys a piece of land. They take it off the speculative market permanently by putting it into a trust.
Okay, the land is held by the nonprofit.
Right. Then they sell the physical house on that land to a low or moderate income family. The family owns the building, builds equity in it.
But not the land underneath.
They lease the land from the nonprofit trust, usually through a very long-term, like 99-year ground lease.
Got it. Own the house, lease the land. But how does that keep it affordable for the next family? That seems like the magic part.
It is. It's all in the legally binding resale formula attached to that ground lease.
Okay.
When the family decides to sell the house, they don't get the full market rate appreciation. They get back their original purchase price, plus a small, predetermined fair share of the appreciation. maybe 25%, for example.
Only 25% of the increased value. Where does the rest go?
The remaining 75% of the appreciation stays with the house, essentially lowering the sale price for the next income-qualified buyer. It locks in affordability permanently.
Wow. So it decouples the house price from the runaway land speculation.
Precisely. It creates housing that remains affordable generation after generation, immune to market bubbles.
Is there evidence this model is actually stable and resilient?
Absolutely. The data from the 2008 financial crisis was striking. CLT homeowners were something like 8 to 10 times less likely to face foreclosure than people in conventional mortgages.
8 to 10 times less likely. That's incredible stability.
It is. CLTs allow people to build modest, predictable wealth, stay in their communities, and prevent the kind of displacement that gentrification often causes. It's a powerful tool.
Okay, so pulling this all together for you, the listener, we've seen homelessness isn't one single problem, but affects distinct groups differently.
We've seen the profound psychological trauma it inflicts, often mistaken for the cause rather than the consequence. That loss of identity, the scarcity mindset, the constant fight or flight.
And critically, we've seen there are proven, evidence-based solutions tailored to each group. Permanent supportive housing, rapid rehousing, prevention strategies, and structural fixes like community land trusts. They exist. They work.
So the core takeaway here really has to be this. Ending up on the street is far less often about individual character flaws and much more often a hazard baked into our current economic system.
The failure isn't personal, it's often systemic. And the real tragedy is when that system convinces people they're worthless.
Exactly. We are more than our jobs, more than our economic situation.
Which leads us to a final thought for you to consider. We know these solutions like PSH and CLTs work. We know they often save money in the long run.
And yet, cities often seem to prioritize other massive publicly funded projects.
Right. Think about the billion-dollar sports stadiums, often built in or near the very neighborhoods struggling most with poverty and homelessness. Places where, ironically, people sometimes feel unsafe just parking their car to attend a game.
So the question is, why that priority? Imagine redirecting even a fraction of that public funding, that civic energy, towards implementing these proven housing solutions at scale.
Investing in permanent supportive housing, building out community land trusts, restoring dignity and stability.
Wouldn't that build a deeper, more lasting, more widely shared sense of real civic pride than any stadium ever could? What does that say about what we truly value as a community?
Something to think about.